Welcome to Modern Wisdom Moments. I'm Nathan Joblin, co-founder of Modern Wisdom Press, and this is our semi-regular feature of authors of books published by Modern Wisdom Press. Today, we are very excited to have Gregory, who happens to be the co-founder of Modern Wisdom Press along with me, and the author of the new and fantastic book, Awaken Into Flow, The Soulful Leader's Guide to Writing a Transformational Book. Welcome, Catherine.
Thanks, Nathan. It's exciting to be on the other side as the author.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting. I'm so happy for you. I've seen up close the journey you've been on to write this book, and I'm really proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Awaken Into Flow. I worked with this one for a little bit. Awaken Into Flow is really about the fact that flow exists. Flow is presence, and we have to get out of our own way in order to write from a place of flow. And so that's the meaning behind the title, is how to align our own personal energy with the universal energy of flow so that we can write our books with a feeling of excitement and joy and not have it be a chore or dread. And, this whole book came out of my own personal experience in writing my first book. Awaken Into Flow is my second book. And my first book, I really struggled a lot with starting and stopping and had a lot of inner obstacles around what it meant to become a book author and how to bring my thoughts and expertise into a tangible form of a book. And so that led to the book coaching work that I do here at Modern Wisdom Press. And this is the foundational Awaken Into Flow. This book is the foundational book coaching methodology that I use with our clients here at Modern Wisdom Press. And I really wrote the book for anyone who might not be working with us to have practical tools to get started in writing their transformational book. And when I say the term transformational book, that's really a book that is written to inspire or change the lives of the readers of the book.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. And then I know that a lot of the potential authors that we speak to are subject matter experts and are very cerebral in how they approach their business and engaging with their clients or whoever it may be. And, that cerebral space is really a default for a lot of us, as we navigate the world. And I know the importance of opening up to creativity. And I know that there's an expression you use, around the inner editor and the inner author, the left and right sides of the brain. Can you speak to the importance of really, I'm not even sure what language you want to use, having those two sides speak to each other?
Yes, I can. I struggle with this in writing my first book. And I think a lot of authors or, first-time authors really do struggle with the left side of our brain. The editor brain is what I call that, our inner editor, really trying to dictate the writing. And for me in my personal writing and in our coaching with authors, really understanding how to and when to engage the inner editor, which is that left brain aspect of structuring, organizing, perfecting our writing, engaging that part of the brain before we write so that we have a really clear path and a map, our outline or through line of the book. So that when we sit down to write, we really are writing from the right brain, which is that place of intuitive flow, which is our inner author. And so we have the inner editor, inner author, and it's really about learning how to balance our intellect with our intuition and knowing when to engage each part of the brain, because both parts are equally important. But when the editor is constantly in the way of the writing, it makes writing really difficult. And so our process is really successful for people to be able to sit down and write and feel like they're channeling or downloading their book from a place of intuitive flow. And so it's been a journey for myself that then translated into this practice and practical tools for our authors to be able to write and birth their books very quickly.
That's excellent. Yeah, I can see it's a full brain experience.
And it's more than just brain. I really think of it as a mind, body, heart, mind, body experience, because we're bringing our whole selves. We're inspired to write a book from that deep inner calling, which I believe is our soul calling. And typically our authors are really experts, and they're not all intellect or cerebral. As you said earlier, many of them are driven by their heart and their purpose, and their work is really shaped around that. But what happens when we start to write a book is that we do get very cerebral. We can easily get caught in our minds and overthinking. So the process of understanding how to write a book from the heart, from the intuition, from being embodied as you're writing is really transformational. And I love the work I do because it is a transformative process. Like when we are bringing something intangible into tangible form, as in birthing a book, bringing these ideas into a tangible form that you can hold in your hands, we're birthing a new version of ourselves as well. And there's so much that happens on the internal inner journey of a person writing a book. And that aspect of ourselves really needs to be nurtured through the whole process of bringing the book into the world.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Those are some really important concepts, and as we think about the different parts of ourselves that we're bringing in the experience of writing the book, I know that then we ultimately want to get down to the action of writing, bringing the conceptual into reality, or the creative onto the paper. And so as you think about someone who's received your guidance in terms of integrating themselves and is doing well with that, what are some practical tips, a couple of practical tips that would help someone to really bring it home in terms of being in their right headspace and body space and heart space to begin writing?
That's a great question. I think the first most important step is becoming present. And that often involves just slowing down, taking the time to breathe and present yourself in your body, in the room where you are. And this is part of the flow method that's talked about in the book. And the acronym FLOW stands for follow the breath, let go of fear, own your inner wisdom, and write from the heart. And so all four of those steps are invaluable in actually being able to bring the intangible into tangible form, as in writing our books. But that first practical step of just becoming present is paramount. It's the foundation.
Yeah, and I can see the effect of bringing these multiple elements in finding presence together, the FLOW. I can see how bringing them together will be more than the sum of their parts in terms of a grounding and present experience.
Yeah, I think another practical tool coming to mind is in the book, and at the end of each chapter, there's flow writing prompts. The flow writing prompts are an invaluable tool inside of the book, and that's part of our process in coaching our authors, is learning how to write without the inner editor judging every word that you're writing. And I had to go through this on a personal level in writing my first book, because I was a professional editor for so long. Those grooves inside of my brain of editing were really deep. So every time I would write a sentence, I would be editing it, starting and stopping. And it's exhausting to write that way, especially if you're a recovering perfectionist. So the flow writing prompts are really important. And each chapter, you're learning how to really go deeper in your own experience, writing without worrying whether it's good writing or not. And that's what helps get the first draft of your book out and actually is the forward momentum that most people need when they are looking at writing an entire book. So that's a big tool that I think is invaluable in the process.
Thank you. And tell me if this resonates for you, but I can see a distinction between what might be called spontaneous writing and flow writing, because with flow writing, we really do have an intention to guide the reader to a specific point. And so though the creative expression, we might not be fully aware of what's going to happen on the page, we know where we're going, versus spontaneous, which is, oftentimes what people might start with when writing a book, which is just basically an unloading of everything you know.
Right. I think part of the foundational steps of writing a book or writing a transformational book that you want to transform your readers' lives is knowing who your reader is. There's like so much value in knowing who you're writing your book for and where you want to take them. And that's that through line process I was talking about. Each step of the way is really intentional where you're guiding them, so that when you do sit down to write, you have a really clear understanding of where you're taking them. But you already have figured that out. The inner editor has done that pre-work so that you can sit down and actually write from that place of flow.
Nice. And I can see how having that intention of having the reader outcome for every chapter, where you want your reader to go, also, in a sense, takes a little bit of our personal ego out of it, because our mindset is devoted to serving the reader, perhaps as opposed to, what I've been guilty of, and other people as well, is trying to impress with what we know.
Right. Yeah. There's a wonderful dance that happens in writing a transformational book of working with our ego and working with our soul calling. And, the ego serves our soul calling. It's how we are able to express ourselves and bring that deeper inner calling forth in the world. And so the ego is not bad. It's just, how do we find balance and really come from a place of healthy ego, knowing that we are writing our books to serve our readers, to serve the audience. And I think this topic of service is really important too when you think of yourself as an author. For me, when I was stuck writing my first book, there was a lot of inner fear around being seen, having to speak about my book, having to show up as an expert. So a lot of that work, we are doing in the coaching process to really mine out what is blocking you, but also just coming from that place of service can help you get over yourself, like knowing that you're here to serve. Like maybe you don't want to be seen or having to sell your book, but if you're doing it in service of your readers, it's a mindset shift. And I think it's so valuable to really own your own inner wisdom as an act of service.
Excellent. Thank you. And I think it's a beautiful place to wrap this up as we talk about the reader, who is really the ultimate point of what we do, and so thank you for being of service with your new book, Flow, Awaken Into Flow. And I hope that, and I know that it will provide a lot of support and positive impact for its readers.
Thank you so much, Nathan. And yes, anyone who is interested in the book can find it online on all the online booksellers, but we also have a free download of chapter 1 for listeners if they would like to get a copy, and we'll put the link in the show notes below.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Nathan.